Hi, my name is Lucian Lombard.
My name is Atticus.
I'm Tim Thunhurst.
Hello, I'm Hunter Weber.
Hello, my name is Fernando Vargas.
My name's Acadia.
Hello, my name is Ariana, and my group and I, for the past several weeks, have been learning about biofuels and land use change. Biofuels are liquid fuels like gasoline produced from biomass materials. Examples of these materials are corn, soybean, sugarcane, and a lot more. Biofuels are supposed to be the fuel that replaces the burning of fossil fuels that we do now, which is affecting the Earth's health overall. This will help lower the carbon emissions in the atmosphere to eventually have less greenhouse gas emissions that cause the increasing temperatures of the Earth. The biofuels can be used to replace the fuel in your car, so less CO2 emissions are entering the atmosphere as well. This will also help factories everywhere also produce less coal emissions and hopefully no fossil fuels at all very soon, as well as the jet and airplane fuels. Thank you.
Most developed nations rely heavily upon fossil fuels for energy. One major problem is that fossil fuels only take moments to be consumed. However, they take millions of years to be created. One solution to this issue is the creation of biofuels, which Ariana explained is the creation of fuels from plant matter or biomass, which is much easier and quicker to create than fossil fuels. However, biofuels are not free from negative impacts. One major impact that biofuels present is the indirect change to land use. Due to biofuels, land that is currently undisturbed or land that is being used for crops are now required to be used specifically for the growing of crops to make biofuels. The impact can be significant. There are many metrics that can be used to measure these impacts, and there are also many consequences that cannot be measured. Through the rest of this video, it is our goal to share with you the concerns we have with the indirect land use change impacts of biofuels.
In contemporary society, biofuels are used today as an alternative fuel source in order to help aid against the harmful emission of fossil fuels, yet arise other problems within the area of land usage. Biofuels as of today, such as ethanol and biodiesel, incorporate a majority of their production process through agricultural-based principles, which requires a large amount of land to produce the supply required through local farmers. This extreme amount of land usage and crop distribution to biofuels has decreased the supply of plant and food resources by a great factor, which, in turn, has spiked the price of corn, wheat, sugarcane, and other crops. According to an article on the sustainability of biofuels, due to the relatively high sustainability between our agricultural products, the global food price will increase in response to this reduced supply. In return, the increase in food prices creates an incentive to expand cropland for agricultural production, which in summary, as biofuel desire increases, so do the immense amount of land usage and therefore CO2 and methane emission rates. Thank you.
With the technology available today, biofuels' most widespread use is in bioethanol gasoline blends for cars. These are produced to reduce the emissions of people on the road today. The most common blends for bioethanol gasoline are between 10 to 20% bioethanol, with the highest blends at 85% for fuel flexible cars. While the production of biofuels still produces greenhouse gas emissions, research is being done on cellulosic biofuels that are made from agricultural waste and plants grown on land that is unsuitable for traditional agriculture. This graph, using gasoline greenhouse gas emissions as a baseline, shows that cellulosic biofuels offer an 86% reduction in the greenhouse gas emissions from traditional gasoline.
The future we envision is one where carbon neutrality has been achieved through a strategic overhaul of our fuel systems and agricultural policies. This transformation begins with the top-down approach, where social and economic pressures unite with an increase in education and awareness to drive meaningful change. To revise our current system, research on novel biomass sources, efficient and responsible land usage, and sustainable refinement techniques would be required. Efforts made in these fields would be rewarded by government subsidy and an increased demand, while outdated and polluting practices, like deforestation, tilling, and fossil fuel usage, would receive penalization. The result of these changes would lead to infrastructure that promotes and substantiates the use of biofuels, allowing us to take steps towards the untapped potential of these fuels while mitigating setbacks that have held us back. If we take these steps together, this carbon neutral future could be upon us within 50 years.
With increased consumer awareness and greener practices, biofuels could do great things for us. They could significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions according to studies like Hunt 2008. They could also preserve existing jobs in industries that are dependent on fuel and even create new jobs, according to Industrial Biotechnology 2010. On the other hand, biofuels greenwashing could make things worse. Modern intensive agriculture for biofuels can have a large carbon footprint due to the fertilizers and fossil fuels. It can actually increase greenhouse gas emissions, according to studies like Arasu 2023 and Searchinger 2008. Change could also make food supplies for millions of people more vulnerable to pests and disease and threaten supplies of fresh water as well, according to a 2020 article by the Worldwide Fund for Nature. In a world already losing much of its best cropland to biofuel production, food prices could rise under the best conditions and skyrocket when the weather destroys crops. The main driver for our vision of the future would have to be a public that values the environment enough to prioritize educating themselves about it. The public rates the environment as an important issue, according to Funk et al. 2020, but that doesn't mean they consider it important enough to spend their time becoming well informed about it. Our vision would see a comprehensive move toward a number of better land use practices, so that farmers eventually would be better able to profit from farming sustainably rather than farming unsustainably. Our vision for the future, reduced greenhouse gas emissions, would help us preserve wildlands, waters, agricultural land, and our way of life from climate change. The economy would thrive with more jobs, stable, affordable fuel prices, and food prices. In this future, profits and the survival of the environment would no longer be in conflict with each other.
I will be covering the strategies / transitions that will need to be made to fit the vision of a better future for our relationship with biofuels and land use. The first strategy for biofuels and land use is to cut back or to discontinue some of the policies provided for biofuel production. Many studies have shown that biofuel policies were meant to create environmental benefits, but studies have shown that these policies don't benefit the environment at all. The United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change now acknowledges that these biofuel policies and incentives negatively affect the lives of the poor, distort land, and have negative consequences to the land. These policies incentivize farmers to produce crops for biofuels, soon causing problems with food production and raising the cost of crop goods due to less land meant for food. These strategies will transition biofuel producers to make a more efficient way of biofuel production. And then biofuel use would also decline to an efficient level that maximizes consumer benefits. It would also transition into lowering market costs, also lowering the use of fertilizers and land use conversion.
Now, how do we transition into these cleaner, more renewable energy sources such as biofuels? Well, we have to change the use of land. Preferably, these governmental agencies and biofuel companies will go after land that isn't currently being used for anything important. So, empty lots, for example. This field beside where I live is a perfect example. The owners of this land can probably be swayed with monetary value, subsidies, tax breaks, any of that in order to purchase their land and use it for the biofuels. Now what happens when we run out of all of these empty lots that are easy to take and use? Our options are we can either build vertically up, we can create more biofuel crop in a less area of land, or we can look other places. We can look at businesses or just other areas that aren't using the land that they have very sustainably and try to sway them to purchase their land to create more biofuels. Or we can create cap and trade programs for businesses that own a lot of land, or perhaps farms that are already in the agriculture business We can try and sway them with cap and trade programs in order to create more biofuels. For example, dairy farmers. They probably don't have a lot of crops on their land, if any. Cap and trade programs will provide them the opportunity to talk with other farmers in their area and trade their resources if need be in order to produce the amount of biofuels that these agencies or the biofuel companies need in order to produce a sufficient amount of this biofuel product that we need in order for our energy consumption to go down from fossil fuels into more clean energy sources.